Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Martin at Simply Mail Solutions. Here is the SMS webinar series on working remotely, which we're going to go through today. So just to start off, just a bit about about SMS, the company itself. So we've been here since 2006. We are here to help you through the whole process of signing up with us. And also we offer various solutions for Office 365 and hosted Exchange, and we do offer other solutions as well, such as web and domains as well. That's just a brief overview about us. So today we're going to be talking about remote working, what's involved in working remotely, what you need to get to work remotely, what equipment you need, devices, etc. So let's just get started with the first part of it. So what the main question that people say is, what is required for working remotely? And most people will think that it's just a case of having a laptop or a PC or whatever, but it's actually there is some other bits that you need to know about. So basically, the main things that you're going to need to work remotely is going to be a stable internet connection. So anything that's really I'd say round about anything from 2 meg upwards is usually a normal stable internet connection. Now, most people think that having a stable internet connection requires having a physical cable plugged into the back of your machine. But these days, especially nowadays, Wi-Fi has become more stable than it was, say, 15 years ago. It is a lot more stable now. Myself, I personally do use Wi-Fi myself, and I work from home, and I also use Wi-Fi when I'm in the office as well. So it is a lot more stable now. So you can, as long as the connection is strong and it connects fine, you won't have any issues connecting to any of the 365 services. The second thing you'd need is obviously a suitable workstation, such as either a laptop or something with a generous screen size. There is people that use things like iPad Pros, which have got a 10 or 12-inch display. They're fine. They'll be fine. They're not a problem. And the third thing is basically making sure that the browser that you have is currently up to date. Now, such as things like Chrome or Edge or Firefox, these are just a few that are available. Obviously, with 365, Microsoft do recommend that you use Edge because obviously that's their own browser, and you will get a more rich experience using their own browser than compared to, say, another one. But other ones do work fine without any issues. So they're the main sort of 3 points that you need to think about when you're working remotely. So what services you require to actually work remotely? So 365 itself, which is the main topic we're going to be talking about today, there is several products that you can use on 365. Now, three of the main ones, part of the actual suite, is you've got Exchange Online, SharePoint and OneDrive, and Microsoft Teams. They're just the three. They're three of the main ones. There is several others as well, and these products are found in services such as Business Standard, Business Basic, and then you've got your enterprise plans of E3 and E5, and Exchange Online. And we're going to be talking about these today. So what is Exchange Online? So Exchange Online is effectively Microsoft Exchange, which is Microsoft's premium email platform. It's the #1 in globally for email. It's the same as what you would get if you had, back in the day when you had a machine in the corner of your office and you had Exchange installed on it. It's the same thing as that basically, but it's obviously a version that's kept up to date by Microsoft themselves, but it's cloud-based, so you can access it anywhere, whether it's on your phone, PC or Mac or web. It can be accessed globally as long as there's an internet connection. Then you can access your mailbox, and it's effectively you connect to it using your browser, and you would connect to an app which is the Outlook app, which is the cloud-based one. And so obviously your data is completely synced across all platforms, including your mail, calendar, and contacts. And like I say, that can be accessed anywhere where it's got a reliable, stable internet connection, and that's basically what the Exchange Online service is. So moving on to the next subsection of it. So SharePoint Online and OneDrive, these are two products that are available that you can use when you're working remotely, because obviously you want to be able to share files with people. SharePoint is basically, SharePoint and OneDrive are basically cloud-based services, whereas SharePoint is more of a document collaborative platform. designed to store and work with documents, and you can share documents from this. So it's effectively a big library of where you put all your documents, and you can create what's known as sites inside there, and then you can create, these sites can effectively be like departments. So if you've got, obviously staff are working from home, you can have, say, the marketing department have one SharePoint site, and they can have all their documents in there, and they can actually work on them documents in real time using via the web browser and the downloaded desktop apps. And as soon as the update, make a change to it, that will update automatically into SharePoint, which means all your users can actually see the documents that they've basically changed, and so it keeps it more collaborative, basically. So you can effectively, all your users can basically work on, like I say, work on documents, and whatever you change on there is going to be updated across everybody. So it's a key thing, especially nowadays when you're working remotely and working from home due to the pandemic. Basically, you're going to have full access to your files. Any company documents that, say the board updates some documents, they'll be accessible via SharePoint, and you can also grant permissions levels to who can access them. You might want certain people don't access certain documents, that's all covered within SharePoint. You can also share externally, you can restrict that as well. And that's basically what SharePoint is. Moving on to OneDrive. OneDrive is basically a cloud-based storage platform, so it's very much a bit like Dropbox kind of situation. So what it does is it allows you to store your own data, your own files in a folder structure. So you can basically store anything from documents, photographs, video files, etc. Within there, and that's basically what the OneDrive for, and that is fully it's fully manageable, basically. So you can share files in there, and you can restrict access to it as well. Some people even create a central store in there if they just want to store files in OneDrive and not SharePoint, and create a central store in there and distribute that to the users that are out in the field, so they can basically access that. And OneDrive is fully accessible via on the online website and via the OneDrive app, which is available on Windows, Mac, iPhone, Android, etc. So you can access your files on the go. So it is a very usable product, and it's ideal for storing loads of files. And the default account that you get with it has got 1 terabyte of space, so you're going to have plenty of space on there to store all your documents and things like that. So just moving on to the next area that we're going to be discussing today. So Microsoft Teams is one of the main key applications within 365, especially during the last 12 months. It's there's more and more people using it, and it's actually shot up on people actually using Teams itself, because it's the #1 communication platform that allows people to communicate with staff and clients and suppliers and things like that. So Teams is effectively all Teams is very much like what Skype was. As a matter of fact, it was originally called Skype for Business before it was rebranded, and before that it was called Microsoft Communicator, and it's been called a few other things as well. But it's basically just effectively it's a chat system, but it also does video calling, and it does group calling, and there's a lot of other features within inside Teams. We do actually do another webinar on Teams that goes into a bit more detail on what other advanced features of Teams that you can do. But so you might want to view that at some point to see what other features are available in Teams. But the Teams basically allows you to have one-on-one calling. And it allows things like desktop sharing. So if you've got somebody working from home, and you want to do something on their machine, for example, that's maybe support related or whatever, you can actually allow desktop sharing, so you can actually use that in it. You can also do, with some Office 365 plans, I believe it's the enterprise plans, you can do whiteboard sessions as well, so you can actually enable whiteboard sessions and do that with your staff on certain plans. So that's quite useful as well if you want to do like a training exercise through Teams remotely, and especially nowadays, it's a lot more people being trained working from home anyway. It's a very configurable system. You can there's a lot of add-ons that you can get for it, third-party ones that you can do like project management through and things like that. You can also there is an add-on service called Business Voice, which is a chargeable add-on that will actually enable Teams to be a fully fledged phone system. So it would replace like your phone system that you'd say have in your office. So you can actually go into Teams, go into the phone section, and then you get a dial pad and you can make calls. As long as you've got obviously minutes on the account, you can actually make calls going out, and you can do what you do with a normal phone system basically. So Microsoft Teams is one of the key components, especially from working from home, because you can do pretty much anything you want as in communication. So you can communicate with anyone in the world that's basically got Teams, and you can basically just have video calls. You can have chats with people externally and internally, as long as that's set up to do external. It will actually allow you to do that. So one of the next things that people are going to worry about when they're working from home is obviously staying safe. It's one of the things that probably worries most people about security, and obviously, especially nowadays where there's a lot more threats out there than there used to be. It seems to be a lot more people saying, "Oh, I've been hacked," or "There's been a phishing attack," or something like that. So working from home and staying safe while you're working remotely is is really a key component to make sure that you're working from home in the best possible way and the most safely way and the most secure way. So some of the key features of working from home is one thing we always say to people is obviously you really need an antivirus software installed. Nowadays, Windows comes with one called Defender, which is built in. But there is third-party ones that are available. You have to make sure that's kept up to date. Now, the majority of them do update automatically, but there's some that don't. So you just need to make sure that they are up to date and they've got the latest updates that are available. Another update option would be on Windows or Mac, ensuring that the latest security patches and updates are installed, because obviously they fix any holes within the actual software itself and the operating system itself. So obviously that will fix any issues there, and that will keep you secure as well. Now there's other things that you can do within 365 itself, and one of them is what's known as implementing MFA. That's multi-factor authentication, which we're going to discuss on the next slide. But that basically gives you a secondary level of protection on your account to prevent it from being hacked, which is very, very useful in 365, and it's highly recommended that you turn that on. And obviously be cautious of things like links and attachments that are sent in emails. That's the #1 cause of machines being compromised with viruses or trackingware. So it's to ensure that basically you don't click on anything you don't know about. Now there is on 365 there is a service called Microsoft Defender for 365, which was previously called Advanced Threat Protection, and that has a feature in that actually will scan every single link in an email and attachment, and if it's dodgy, it will actually, when you click on the link, it will actually take you to a page that will say this is not a real link, this is basically this is dodgy, don't proceed. So there is that functionality that you can turn on. Obviously, Microsoft Defender is a paid-for add-on, so you'd need to purchase that as part of your 365 plan in order for that to work. And like I say, there's some optional services that are available. You've got Azure Information Protection, Intune, and Microsoft Defender. We're going to discuss them next on what they are and what they can basically do for you. So multi-factor authentication, as I just previously mentioned, or MFA as it's known as, is just an additional layer of security for your Office 365 account. It basically reduces the risk of your account being breached or being hacked. And what it basically does is when it turns it on, you don't just use your password to sign in. You have to use what's known as, they call it a code, but it's actually called a token. And what that basically does is it will only sign in if you have that code. If you don't have it, it will not sign in. And that code can only you can only have that code, because when you set it up, you pair it with either a phone number to call you, or a text, or you configure it with the app, which is the recommended way. And it's only your device that will actually it will work with. So it basically gives you that second level. So if your password gets compromised, even if they try to log in, they'd still have to get through MFA, which makes it harder for them to get into it. So MFA is something that we always recommend to everyone to turn on once they've moved to 365 or set up a 365 account. So the first thing that you should do is turn that on and ensure that your account is as secure as possible. It is very easy to set up. It's literally a case we enable it for you, and then when you sign in for the first time, you'll get a prompt that says to set up MFA. You click continue, and it'll ask you for it'll actually tell you what to do. It'll actually tell you how to use the app and how to configure the app for MFA, and it'll ask you for a phone number because you need two methods. You need either you need a phone number and to use the app, or you need to have two separate phone numbers basically, because if one fails, then you need something to obviously fall over to basically. But it is easy to set up, and obviously just call support. We can go through that with you. So the other thing that's on another things that you can make sure that you secure whilst working remotely is what's called Azure Information Protection, or AIP. And basically all this is it's another secure way to secure documents and emails within 365 itself. It allows you to create categories, which is basically known as labels. So you can classify documents as private or sensitive, or only certain people can view them basically. So you can actually assign them, and to do that all you have to do is install an add-on that basically will install on your machine, and then that gives you the option to right click a file, and it'll actually say what category you want to mark this at. It gives you the option to create the categories as well. The other feature of AIP is encryption, which allows you to encrypt your emails, because by default emails themselves aren't encrypted on 365. The connection between 365 and the server is, but obviously the email that you send isn't. So you can actually allow that. So there is an option that's within Outlook that when you select encryption, you can actually set it to encrypt, and either to allow forwarding, not to forward. So if they receive that message, they can't forward it on to anyone. It won't allow them to. And it also, as well, if you send it to a non-Outlook client, they will get an email with a link. They click the link, and that will then allow them to view the message with a password that it sends them. So it makes it secure effectively. Especially, it's handy for obviously finance and that kind of institution where it's data's critical, and obviously covers things like data breaches and things, because obviously the mail's going to be encrypted. It's very, very handy for that kind of thing. So the next thing that we would be looking at would be something like Microsoft Intune, which is basically a service that there's another paid for service that you can add on. And all this basically does is it's like a policy basically that allows an administrator to restrict access to certain things on devices, so they can restrict it as an organizational standard for a device. So basically what this does is it allows you to lock out things like the camera on a phone, for example. Certain apps can't be accessed. It allows you to push the Exchange account to the device using a policy. It's multi-platform. It was previously known as MDM, which is mobile device management, and it became Intune. So it effectively allows you to, and this actually also works on Windows PCs as well. So you can actually use that to effectively secure the device down, so you can dictate what a user has access to on that device to ensure they don't leak any organizational data to other people basically. And it can work in conjunction with AIP, so you can have both at the same time. So it is very, very useful service. So moving on to Microsoft Defender for Office 365, as just briefly mentioned before. Basically, Microsoft Defender is another level of anti-malware, anti-phishing, and anti-spam. By default, 365 does have an anti-spam service, and it's very, very good. However, this is the advanced version of it, and this is like the anti-spam on steroids. So it basically will filter the same as the standard one, but it gives you some other benefits. So the other benefits it gives you is the safe links and safe attachments. It actually rewrites every single link in an email to safelinks.microsoft.com, and then there's a lot of random characters. And what that does is it goes through a filter, and it basically looks at that site that it's going to, or file that it's going to, and it will say if that's safe or not, and it rewrites the link. So when you click on that link, it basically goes through the 365 system, and it will actually say it'll either load up normally, and it will just redirect to the correct link, or you'll get a red page that basically says this is an unsafe link. If you click on this, it's going to cause compromise of your account, etc. Does the same for attachments as well. So it gives you a peace of mind that you're knowing that it filters all your links and stuff, and that is customizable. You can add known, because sometimes there is false positives, so you can get that, so you can actually add you can customize that to your own specification. Basically, you can add certain links to it, for example, to pass through that. Obviously, the other thing it does as well is it does protect data within SharePoint and OneDrive and Teams, because when you first enable the service, it gives you the option, do you want to protect all your files, and you click yes, and it means that anything that you upload into, say, OneDrive, that will be scanned for. So someone could upload, say, a dodgy executable file, for example, to OneDrive. This service will basically say, hang on a minute, that file is dodgy, we're not going to allow that. And that's what this does. So it's really useful having. And there's 2 plans available. One's a basic plan, one gives you a bit more reporting, auditing, that kind of thing. And it is real time, and it gives you full reports. So you can go into the admin panel, you can actually see what's going on. But from working remotely point of view, this is especially useful, knowing that when a member of staff gets an email and they've got a link in it that's dodgy, you can have peace of mind knowing if they click on that, Microsoft's going to be scanning that, and it's going to be saying if it's a dodgy link, it's going to basically say, hang on a minute, we're not allowing you to go there. So it does give you a bit of peace of mind that they're not going to infect a machine and potentially get a virus that spreads through the whole email account and start sending out emails to people. So it is useful for doing things like that. So it is a very useful service on that. So sorry about that. So basically, we've got some FAQs on today's webinar. There's some basically these are like some questions that people generally ask as on support. So one of the main ones is, what internet speed is required for Teams whilst working remotely? So basically, the minimum speed for any audio calling, and this is per Microsoft specification, is actually 30 kilobits. However, if you're wanting to do video calling, it's around 500 kilobits. And if you want to do HD calling, they recommend 2 megabits. We recommend anything 2 megabits and up for anything, and that makes sure that you're going to not have any issues, especially if you're working from home, there's only one of you, or even a couple of you, work for the same place. Then I would recommend personally anything from 2 meg up, you'll be perfectly fine, because obviously you've got other people working in the house as well. You've got to obviously compensate that. So they're roughly the speeds that you need to get up and running. But as long as you've got around that, which the majority of people these days have, you won't have any issues with connectivity into any of the 365 services and Teams. Another question is what platforms will it work on? So I think I previously mentioned this before. It will work on Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android, and Teams will also work on Linux as well if you have any Linux users. And the other question is, where can I get help? So you can just call 0925 818 252, raise a ticket via the portal, or check the knowledge base out on the link on screen. That gives you all the information that you're going to need. The knowledge base is actively being updated on a weekly basis, so there is new articles being added weekly on there. So make sure you get that bookmarked and just keep checking that, and that'll give you everything you need. If there's anything on there that it doesn't cover, then just give us a call or open a ticket, and we'll be happy to help with that. So just moving on to the last few slides on here. So basically, how does the SMS fit into all this? So as I mentioned previously, we have been here since 2006. We are a Microsoft CSP, so we are actually a reseller for Microsoft directly. So when you sign up to us with 365, we actually get the accounts directly from them. There's no third parties involved in doing that. And we are everything in the cloud. We provide everything from 365 to web hosting to domains, and we are fully UK based. And including the support desk, it's fully based in the UK, and we're more than happy to help. And obviously our sales team is also based in the UK. So let's say the numbers on screen for them. So if you have anything you need to ask, any questions, either call sales or support, we'll be happy to help going forward. So I just want to thank everyone for logging in today and watching this webinar on working remotely today. It's been a pleasure going through it with you all. I say if you have any questions that you need to ask, just either call the numbers on screen, or let's say just open a ticket with us, and we're more than happy to help. We are doing these webinars every second Wednesday, so stay tuned for new content that we're going to be releasing, and we're also going to be releasing that to our YouTube channel as well. Check them out, and like I say, if you have any questions, just give us a shout. But thanks very much for viewing.